Welcome to the museum. This is very much important. This is where the dome passes were initially issued. The regulations, they started here. The acts started here. In Sharpeville, they had a free movement for them to move around. In the Western Cape, in Cape Town, we didn't have much movement as well, because the dome pass, it only said to you prescribed area of the Cape Peninsula. You see? Everyone been to waterfront here?
Yeah.
You've been to waterfront? If you're looking through towards waterfront, you have waterfront. Next to waterfront, it is Greenpoint. So if you're looking through towards Greenpoint, you were not allowed to move from waterfront to move into Greenpoint. The moment you move to Greenpoint, whereas your passport or your dome pass, it says to you waterfront, you'll be arrested. Yeah. So welcome to Cape Town. Let's enter in. So as coming from the marches, you know, today it is basically the Human Rights Day. So starting from Johannesburg in Sharpeville, where there were initially 69 people. However, Langa, we only had to do it on the 30th of March. So the fact that you basically sing here, which is Philip Hosanna. So from Philip Hosanna, that is basically what we actually like to do, is to walk through towards the township itself, move right by the foot, heading straight through towards the city center. Meaning the city center would definitely be Peter Khan Street. So from the Peter Khan Street, we have a lot more that we actually like to do as well. Coming through towards 1976 as well, in terms of the educational programs that we initially had. So 1976, on the 12th of August, that was where the 33 young students that we initially been shot dead at. So that we basically talking about the township itself. So that is basically 1976. Everything that we initially have within here is the fact that we still have this timeline. So if you look into towards the timeline, it dates back from 1901. So from 1901, this is where the segregational laws initially started as well. So the timeline from 1901, 1948, that is basically when the apartheid really started within here. But the same specific documentation that was called the dome passes, this is where they initially started from 1923, with the establishment of the township itself. But then as much as from all those past laws that we actually didn't want, is the fact that this specific room, this specific documentation, which dates back through towards 1923 as well. So from 1923, each and every so-called black migrant labor man, they initially had to get through towards this specific documentation. If a black person sits on this specific chair, what will happen to it is the fact that you'll be arrested for 3 consecutive months. And the room we actually at, it was the court. As you can see how the township it was initially designed. It was initially designed as in terms of a U-shaped area. All these administrations, that's where the so-called whites, they actually had to do these apartheid legislation laws. But here, that is basically where all the black migrant workers with less movement for them to walk through. But if you look into towards there, that is where the families, you have the single sex barracks, and then also had a family housing as well. So from the family housing, that's where you're speaking Xhosa, you're speaking English, and you're speaking Afrikaans. That is where everything started. These are the original documentation that was called the dome passes. Those specific documentation, if you don't have with you, that becomes a huge problem. So you'd be arrested. Hence, this was the court. Is the fact that the woman started it in 1955, which says to you, women and pass laws. With passes, we are slaves. That is what triggered the universe. So as you're basically seeing these specific documentation, as you can see the bags here, this is where all the black migrant labor men, they actually had to have it with them all the time. Hence, they only had to have one movement to go and see their women through towards the villages. So the red one, as you can see, that's the red one that was initially been carried by black men. The name one, that was the one that was actually being carried by women from 1952. The top one, that is where the policemen, in terms of the private investigators, the ones that torched so-called black people around. This specific room, as is one of the historical places, you look into towards here, this was the holding cell. for each and every so-called black migrant laborer, we actually had to be arrested anywhere within the Western Cape. So the moment you are arrested, you come through towards this holding cell. Meaning in 1960, we had right about 1,500 people were arrested on one specific day on the 7th of April. That triggered so many people throughout the world that had to go through as well. But in this specific room, you'd find right about 400 to 500 people on a daily basis. So this was the holding cell. As you can see even here, it says to you, stop issuing passes to women. So the women themselves, as you can see, Mamu Bavuma and her child, it's the fact that she just died in front of the hospital. Because in the document of the dog pass, it only prescribed you which you had to renew it. This is still the original documentation, and you find here the administrators as well. The information center that we basically have, that is basically where we actually accommodate our guests. So when you basically accommodate our guests, as it is an art center. So information center, it is basically here. Then we still have to walk through around. So this is basically our food bank as well. So the food bank for each and everyone who's basically not working. This is the area which they can basically get food each and every day. This is our Uber areas. It's a cloudy, it is basically our Uber Eats. So they have a lot of development around the kids as well. So it's Uber, they're also fixing the bicycle as well. When they're basically fixing the bicycle, is the fact that that's an employment for youth. So as usual, we normally come and buy the fat cakes or amagwinya within here. So it's one of the significant food for each and everyone within the township itself. So because it's 2 rands, if it's 2 rands, bread is very expensive. So if you buy the fat cakes, which is much more less as compared to what's bread. So we believe in humanity in South Africa. Sharing is caring, as we're doing now.
Nice. Number one.
So as much as here, it is basically our art gallery, which is the first art gallery that we have in the township itself.